Inspiration is defined as the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something. Do something is exactly what Lee Cooper Wallace did. Always an athlete, Lee Cooper was the product of a military family upbringing. She moved from town to town, school to school. She always competed.
She always pictured herself as strong and courageous and wanted to prove that. She would do doubles off the high diving board when she was a little kid, and come down on her back sometimes and get right back up there and do it again.
After channeling her strength and athleticism into running, Lee found her way to Boone from the nation's heartland.
When she first came to us, she was a good runner out of Kansas. She was a valuable contributor to our program, but it wasn't until her junior and senior years that I feel like that the experiences that she had to go through kind of gave her a new lease on life, gave her a greater perception and meaning of the things that she wanted to do in her life.
In September of 1989, while on a morning jog, Lee Cooper Wallace was kidnapped and later sexually assaulted at gunpoint. Her captor bragged about murdering another young woman just a few days earlier. Assuming her life was over, she managed to escape Daniel Bryan Lee while stopped at a gas station. Her testimony in court helped solve the murder of Jenny Gray, and it also saw Daniel Bryan Lee sentenced to death.
During that abduction, there were times when she was absolutely convinced that she was going to die that night, within seconds. And once she found out a way to survive it and to get away, she just told herself then that I've got a second chance on life, and I'm gonna make it work, and I'm gonna have an impact. And that kind of drove her for the rest of her life, the next 23 years of her life.
I think for Lee to have overcome what she did, it made her stronger. It made her stronger mentally, and it made her stronger physically.
The high country community rallied behind Lee Cooper, and with the help of her friends, teammates, and her boyfriend, Chris Wallace, who would later become her husband, Lee got back on the track and began to inspire.
A lot of her friends, particularly she had 2 or 3 guy friends. She was dating Chris at the time, her to-be husband. But a lot of her guy friends would just pop by and say, I'm going to run with you today. They wanted to protect her, run with her. And she reached a point where, I don't need this. I need to be by myself. I need to get back to my regular life. And one of the thoughts I had that night was that this is going to change her. She's going to lose trust in people. She's going to lose that love of running. And fortunately, that didn't happen.
As a senior at Appalachian, Lee Cooper Wallace would rewrite the record books.
In terms of particularly her final year, her senior year, she did one of those difficult things that many athletes in the distance program aren't able to do. She did the triple to 10,000, the 5,000, and 3,000, all in a 2-day period for us at the conference.
It was kind of her second life in track and cross country at the time. We had been married. She just had a baby. She'd been out of track for a little bit because of injuries. So when she came back, I don't think she had any idea that, first of all, she would do as well as she did.
When Lee came in, when I hired her for her first year, she had just come off of her great Southern Conference weekend, and she was actually faster than most of my boys on the team. So her athletic experiences translated to both pushing them to beat her and pushing them to be better, because that's what she was all about.
Lee won 4 Southern Conference championships in her final year on the track, and she is still one of 2 runners in league history to win the 3,000, 5,000, and 10,000 meter races in the same championship event.
I think she looked at it from the point of view that she wanted to do well in everything she did. And it would have been just as easy to say, okay, I'm going to run 2 of those races and go about and do those very well and have a really solid, exceptional career. But no, she went that extra step. She says, no, it's been done once before by a teammate. I know I can do it, and I'm going to do it also.
In the wake of her abduction, Appalachian State started an annual Walk for Awareness, first as a tribute to she and Jenny Gray, but now the event serves as a time for remembrance and awareness.
So she asked Louise to go up and say something. She wasn't ready at that time to speak, and so Louise went up and talked. And from that time on, from then on, it was Walk for Awareness, and Barbara Day had a lot of influence on that to make sure that it did not become a bashing thing. It was a silent walk, and the next year she asked Lee to speak, and Lee did, and from that time on, I think Lee felt like, I've got a story to tell that will have an impact, and I'm gonna tell it.
I think that as the walk has progressed, it has become more significant as a beginning of the school year event. It was almost as if we kick off the school year, and there's usually a theme. If you see something, say something. Be concerned, be aware. And with Lee, I think for her and her involvement, it was always, you are not a victim, I am not a victim, I am a survivor, you will be a survivor. These are the ways that you become a survivor. These are the ways that you become the person that you want to be. And I have seen it take the form of introducing concepts, of making students aware without frightening them, but saying, hey, we are a campus community, we are a family. Men and women, let's work together.
Lee Cooper Wallace found involvement in numerous charities throughout the High Country. She was an active coach and mentor at Watauga High School, and served as an example of what happens when perseverance and hard work pay off. Lee passed away suddenly in the fall of 2012 after a brief bout with pneumonia. Her legacy lives on.
I mean, she just loved helping people. I used to tell her, you got to learn to say no every now and again, but she just wouldn't. She loved to be a part of everything. She loved to help individuals that needed help, and just a great mentor and role model.
It just boiled down to two things. Lee Wallace is one of the bravest people I will ever know, and Lee Wallace is my hero. And to me, that's who she was, that's what she was, and the people within this community and many other communities soon learned through her ability to relate to other people, to encourage them, to say to them, you're more than you think you are. You can do more than you ever thought you could. That she became to me an icon.
Most of the comments have been that you've inspired me in whatever I needed to be inspired. If I needed to be inspired to continue exercising or to work harder, or if I just needed to be inspired to face the next day. That was very evident with not only with the outpouring during her memorial service during the time of her death, but also 2.5 years later. People are still saying they think of her on a daily basis. They get up each morning and they keep moving forward.